This video is for chapter 7, Bio 181. It's on cellular respiration. So this is a pretty intense topic. It's the most intense topic that we cover in this course. So I'm going to go through it with as little detail as I can while maintaining the integrity of the process. So it is going to involve biochemical pathways, and let's just jump in. So it's a series of reactions that oxidize molecules. And if you remember, oxidation, right, is removing energy. So if you remember oil rig, oxidation is loss, right? So the molecules that are oxidized, like glucose, for example given, glucose, which is a sugar, OSE on the end is sugar, so sugar. So we're taking molecules, we're oxidizing them, oxidize through a series of reactions, and then we're going to get energy out, okay? So then we're going to get ATP. So this is the basic. It's not a balanced equation, but we're taking our sugar, our organic molecule, we're going to take the energy out of those molecules, out of specifically the electrons in there, and we're going to put that energy into the electrons in ATP. So this occurs in the cell. A lot of it takes place in the mitochondria, and let's just go forward. So some organisms, autotrophs, this is just simple definition. So autotroph is to eat. They make sugar. I'm just going to keep this really simple, right? That process is photosynthesis, right? So plants are an example of this, photosynthesis. And that's what we're going to be doing in another chapter. But photosynthesis takes energy from light, right? And puts that energy into sugar. And then an autotroph, so that's the first step. And then the second step, the autotroph converts that sugar into ATP and uses it. Okay? In heterotrophs, they don't do step one. No step one, right? They don't do photosynthesis, but they do convert sugar into ATP. So it's just simpler. So humans, right, are heterotrophs, human. We eat plants to get our sugar, or we eat animals that have eaten plants to get the sugar, right? Okay. This is simplified version here. All right, so cellular respiration is a big word. And so this is at the cellular level, inside of a single cell, we're going to be breaking down sugar and getting ATP. Okay, so that's cellular respiration. There's two main types of cellular respiration. One is if you have oxygen, so with oxygen gas. That's what we do most of. That's why we die. If we run out of oxygen, we run out of ATP. And then without oxygen, okay, so no oxygen. And humans can do this to a small amount. So our muscles can go into anaerobic respiration without oxygen. So this can happen. It also happens all of the time in organisms like yeast or some bacteria. Okay, so we're going to go through both of these. Most of our time is going to be spent over here with oxygen. Okay, that is called aerobic respiration. So aerobic just means with oxygen, and oxygen is going to take the electrons from the glucose, right? And it's going to take them. It's very electronegative. It can pull oxygens, and that's the end of the process. We're going to go through a series of reactions, glycolysis, pyruvate oxidation. The Krebs cycle, which is actually in our book, we're calling it the citric acid cycle, which is the more common name now, citric acid cycle. We're moving away from a person's proper name, Krebs, who was a scientist, to something that's a little more descriptive, citric acid cycle. So that is the Krebs cycle. And then the electron transport chain and chemiosmosis. Okay. That's where we're going to spend most of our time. Then we will also talk about the case of fermentation. So fermentation is without oxygen. There are two types. One is called lactic acid, and the second is called alcohol fermentation. So both of these also make ATP. So the main idea for both of these, right, is that you get ATP out. So for all cellular respiration, if we start at the top, I'm just going to do a different color here. We start with sugar, right, up here, okay. It goes through the process, it gets broken down either this way, okay, and makes ATP, or it gets broken down this way over here with oxygen present and makes ATP, okay. This way on the left, we're going to get about 32 ATP per molecule. Over here, we're going to get about 2. So it's a lot more efficient when oxygen is present than without oxygen. Okay, so aerobic cellular respiration is just defined here. We've got glucose. It's fully oxidized. So I'm going to write out the equation. So we have C6H12O6. That's the molecular formula for glucose. We add oxygen gas, 6 molecules of oxygen gas, 6O2. Then those are the reactants. Then we go through the process of cellular respiration. So this is cell respiration. Okay. And our products are water. We're going to get 6 molecules of water. And we're going to get 6 molecules of oxygen gas. And here's the kicker, we get ATP out, okay? So we're getting ATP. This is really why we're doing it, okay? And we're going to get about 32 molecules of ATP. So that's a number I'd like you to know. This is variable depending on the organism and the cell and other conditions, but we're just going to go with that. Now you might say, wait a minute, how do I just have stuff over here, this ATP on the right, the products, there's nothing over here on the left, how can this be balanced? That's a great question, okay? Usually we don't think about the beginning parts of ATP, but I could write over here, and you do not have to do this, but I could write over here on the left side, 32 ADP plus 32 PI, which is the third phosphate, okay? So this is really important if you're thinking about, okay, where are the molecules coming from? But we usually leave that off, okay? We're gonna just focus on the fact that we have ATP over here on the right, and we usually just say ATP, and it's a variable amount. And that's what you really need to know. Oops, oh man, I made a mistake. Okay, so I said we created oxygen over here. I said that mindlessly. We're not creating oxygen, erase that, okay? CO2, we're exhaling carbon dioxide, okay? So we start with our sugar, which is our glucose. We add oxygen, gas, which we breathe in. And our products are water and carbon dioxide and ATP. So we exhale as large organisms carbon dioxide. It's because on the cellular level, we're taking in oxygen gas and breathing out carbon dioxide. The last thing for this overview is I just wanted to talk about this word electron carriers. It's going to come into play a lot. So these are molecules that carry electrons, okay, from place to place. Electrons from, that's from one place to the next. From one location to the next. To another. I just want to keep this really simple because it gets looking a little bit complicated. So examples of electron carriers that I'd like you to know for cellular respiration are NAD, okay, which that's the abbreviation for the electron carrier. It gets 2 electrons and it becomes NADH. The other one, so this is the first one you need to know. The second one is FAD plus. It gets electrons. It becomes FADH. Okay. No, sorry, we need an extra 2 there. Okay. So this is the example. Here's NAD plus. Over here on the left, you can see the electrons. They're just temporarily being carried. It's kind of like a taxi. They're hopping onto this molecule. When they're on the molecule, it's called NADH. And then once they're released, again, it turns back into NAD plus. Okay. So it's just like an enzyme, it's being recycled. These electrons are moving from one place to another. When the electrons are added, oxidation is loss, reduction is gain. So this is reduced. Okay. And then without it, when oxidation is lost, this is oxidized. Okay. So the oxidized form of the electron carrier is NAD plus. The reduced form is NADH. Okay, that's it for this first video.